what we're advocating. We want to be very, very careful, but sometimes you do need these sorts of things to help you. So in summary, you want to start with your meals. I would monitor, I would use medicines, I would use movies, and then just what we're doing now here, meetups. Getting together, let me, sort of extemporaneously talk about, sort of the data, and then you can ask questions. So this is sort of our formula that we've been involved with. Lydia, you think that's reasonable? And that takes
Yes.
into account everything. And again, we want to be, the most important thing is we want to be very, very safe, but we want to be helpful. And this is sort of what we've come up with. So there is this word called diobesity, which we've sort of gotten from the combination of diabetes and obesity. It really is a chicken and the egg. Like, which one came first? Did you get diabetes and now you're overweight? Or was the overweight that causes the diobesity? And the story of Vernon is one that this was back in 2015, where we started putting him on an app and followed him closely. And he was on a lot of medicines with very little improvement. And with our coaching and with his work and learning, we were able to resolve his diabetes. It's not been a smooth line, but it's very better. It's much better than he was. And now he has hope. So there is this obesity epidemic in the United States. And when you look at diabetes, especially, it's going straight up. And close to half the population is either diabetic or pre-diabetic. And diabetic is unfortunately the gateway to all the chronic diseases: heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, Alzheimer's. So that's why I was very excited when Lydia approached me to talk about type 2 diabetes, because there's very few organizations that are looking at it, but it's very exciting. In the last 10 years, we've really made some headway. And this does affect our older population more. So if we can make an impact, so type 1's more for the youngers, although type 1s can have type 2 diabetes. So type 1 means you're not making enough insulin. Type 2 is basically you're making too much insulin, mainly because of your nutrition. And when you change your nutrition, the type 2 goes away. Type 1 never goes away, but you can make it very boring because you're on a low carb consistent diet, which we'll talk about. So understand that as we get older, we're at a higher risk for diabetes. It can be because all we have is time to eat. Maybe we don't move as much as we did because of arthritis and other things, or maybe because of the psychosocial stressors, we sort of stress eat. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for this, but the big thing is that we have a big opportunity to help our most vulnerable population if we can improve their overall lifestyle. So again, getting back to the complications of why even go through all of this. Number one, heart disease is still the number one killer in the world. And unfortunately, harshly, most diabetics pass away of heart disease. So you sort of get 2 for 1. If you resolve or control their diabetes, type 2, you will decrease and possibly eliminate their risk of heart disease. So this is amazing. Unfortunately, my father-in-law, I showed his picture last year. He had a heart attack while we were golfing. And one of the problems is when people get chest pain, they know they're having heart problems. But because the diabetes affects the nerves, he did not feel his chest pain. And so, but I could tell that he was having it. We stopped and sort of saved his life in a way that he had to have other things done, but ultimately it consumed him. But just understand that most diabetics pass away of heart disease. And a lot of it is a very painful life because they have neuropathy. They hurt all the time, and they start to get it especially in the feet. And they can get painful feet, but then they can get numb feet. And that's where they get into problems with all of the foot problems that we'll talk about. And this is some of the things you get is you don't feel the pressure and you start to break down your foot. And I'm talking with one of the podiatrists about their limb salvaging because they're trying to salvage these limbs that are the number one cause of non-traumatic amputation is due to poorly controlled diabetes. And the number one cause of kidney failure is type 2 diabetes. And that's why Jason Fung, who is a type 2, who is a nephrologist, kidney doctor, is really big on this because he just saw so many people get on dialysis. And dialysis really isn't a cure of diabetes. It just prolongs it. And unfortunately, you don't live very long once you go on dialysis. So, for the sake of the heart, for the sake of the kidneys, you want to resolve the diabetes as soon as possible before there's irreversible damage. And same with the eyes. So, you can uh, see that the number one cause of blindness in the United States is type 2 diabetes. So, the number one cause of blindness, heart disease, and renal disease is all due to diabetes. And what happens, you get a hyperproliferation of their blood vessels, and they start to get poor vision, and they get swelling in the back of the eye, and ultimately they go blind. So most of the patients will pass away early, much earlier than they need to be if you don't control it. So the other thing I wanted to show you was, this is for Alan, that this is, if I get bad vision, I'm going to start cheating, Alan, on your trip. Dr. Winkelstein's our optometrist, also past president for the Lions Club International in Temecula. And
he is on the call right now.
I know. So he could probably talk to this.
Yep.
Actually, Alan, do you want to say anything about this?
Okay, hold on a second. Let me unmute. I think he's on mute. Alan, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Well, definitely in terms of, older patients and seeing diabetic, who come in as diabetics. They're definitely, if you live long enough, you're going to see diabetic changes in the back of the eye. And it's just inevitable. And obviously, the healthier you are, the less complications you're going to have. And it's not only just the changes you see in the back of the eye, but it also usually is earlier cataracts form, as well as and glaucoma is also, you also become increased risk for those types of eye problems, besides the obviously the issue of blindness.
All right, thank you, Alan.
Enough said.
No, I was going to put you on the spot, but I figured I'd do that.
Right.
So the big thing is, how did this happen historically? And the simple answer is just too much sugar. And I'd like to sort of show this to my students about what our body's sort of made for. So it turns out that we have about 5 quarts of blood. So more than a gallon of blood is in our body. And to get a normal blood sugar, which is 100 milligrams per deciliter, that is equal to, if you do all the math, 1 tablespoon of sugar in our entire bloodstream. That being said, if you go to a can of Coke, it has a ton of sugar. And so sodas in and of themselves are amazing in terms of the amount of sugar they have. And you could go on and on about the different kinds of foods, but that's what I want to tell people. Our body's designed for 1 teaspoon of sugar at a time. And to give it multiple amounts, it has no place to go except to put it in all the different organs and things. So understand that while we can burn sugar, we're not really designed to burn that much sugar, and we can actually make any sugar that we need. So what is type 2 diabetes? It's too much insulin. It's hyperinsulinemia. Because we keep telling our body to make insulin, eventually our body gets resistant to insulin. It makes more and more, and that's what causes the damage. So what raises insulin is chronically high blood sugars. So understand, type 2 diabetes is twofold. It's high blood glucose, which is really just this sort of the kind of like smoke in the fire, that really it's the insulin that's doing the damage. So you really have to get after the insulin. That understand the medicines do a very good job of treating the blood sugar, but not getting at the root cause. So what do we do now? And again, realize that sugar is a fuel, but it's not the only fuel. Our bodies are like hybrid cars. You've seen those where they can run off of electricity, or they can run off of fuel, gasoline. So that's what we can do. And perhaps it's better for you to learn how to produce ketones as a better fuel that doesn't raise insulin, and actually is quite good for the body. So protein, as we mentioned, is not an energy source. It's really just a building block. And understand, if you overdo protein, it will start to switch into blood sugar. So what we're advocating is a low carb consistent diet for diabetics with essentially low at the most moderate protein. It is not a high protein diet, if you don't mind me saying that again. It's not a high protein diet. So people think of the old Atkins, which was low carb, high protein, and it's really low carb, moderate protein, and then healthy fats until you're 80% full. And so understand it's not a fat feast either, that you can overdo the healthy fats. As I joke, we live in Fallbrook or near Fallbrook, that there's fat dogs in Fallbrook from eating too many of the avocados. So everything in moderation. The nice thing about this sort of lower carb, healthier fat, moderate protein is it's very satisfying. So you actually eat less calories. But it really is more about carbs than calories on this. So the phrase that I want to sort of get you to think about, and this is what your doctor wants you to tell him, is that you're on a carb consistent diet. So consider being on a low carb, sort of healthy fat diet, and your carbohydrates are consistent. No matter what your carbohydrate amount is, if you keep it consistent, that helps your diabetes. And by doing 3 square meals a day, you keep your insulin low certain times, and then you just don't want to be doing snacking. You want to have your blood sugar low whenever you can. And so one of the ways to learn about carbohydrates, because I really think we counted calories for decades and that hasn't worked, because calories is an artificial means, and that our body has no calorie sort of receptors. But we do have carbohydrate receptors, and it's really important to learn what is in your foods. And one of the best ways is this free app called Lenny the Carb Counter. So if any of you can get on your iPhone or any of your phones and download Lenny the Carb Counter, it looks like, you know, the Lions Club International mascot, but we didn't really take that. But it doesn't hurt that it's Lenny the Lion Club International Carb Counter, which it isn't. I'm just kidding. But it's kind of fun, and they have all these games, and it makes it really a fun way to learn how many grams of carbs are in different foods. And once you have the knowledge, then you can make the decision. So carb consistency is what it's about. So what you don't want is a lot of carbs, binging, and then none, and then binging. So this makes it really hard to control your diabetes, especially if you're on medications, because it's very easy to get too low. And if you get too low, if you go on a low carb diet and you're still on the medicines, you can get too low and frankly die because your blood sugar can get too low. So we don't want high blood sugar. That'll kill you in, you know, sort of months and years, but low blood sugar can kill you in a couple of minutes. So be very careful about not getting too low. And what we're trying to do is figure out, number one, how many carbs you're getting. And then number two, consider trying to get consistent for a while. And then number three is see if you can lower the carbs, because at the end of the day, there's no essential carbohydrates, and carbohydrates are detrimental to diabetics. Perhaps you could eliminate them or minimize them. And that's what the excitement is. So this is what we call a pre-keto protocol, or a good way to just get started down this road. If you could, try to stay away from, and we use this analogy from Sarah Hallberg's work, no GPS, which stands for grains, potatoes, and sugar. So at least try to stay away from grains, potatoes, and sugar in your diet from now on. Don't be afraid of butter and the tropical oils like coconut oil, avocado oil, and olive oil. And I kind of call it ABD, always be dipping, always be dripping. I literally have a bottle of olive oil in my car in case food breaks out, because you could just pour olive oil on everything. Try not to eat for the first 6 hours of the day. Again, measure your blood sugar. If it gets too low, go ahead and eat, but understand that you could start to, with your doctor's work advice, kind of start to lower your medicines. But by not eating for the first 6 hours when you wake up, you actually keep your insulin very low, because essentially it becomes a 16-hour fast, you know, from at night when you eat your last meal till lunchtime. And then lunch becomes your break fast. Remember, breakfast actually is a word that means you break your fast. So you do a 16-hour fast. And then you must increase your water, because when you go on a lower carbohydrate consistent diet, you're going to urinate more and lose more electrolytes, and you're going to need to lightly salt your food. and increase your water. So start low, go slow, but of all the things you can stay away from are starchy, sugary things, especially fruit, which everyone thinks it's the best thing, but it actually is high sugar, and these have been bred to be the sweetest. And then think about learning about low carb variations of your foods, and you still can have carbs, but then you start to put other things with it. So there's a lot of good recipes. This author actually came out to see us, and actually Lydia and Michelle got to meet her too. So she has a bunch of books, and so you can look at these if you're interested in what to get. One of the best books, and we'll put it in the notes, is what's called basically comfort keto foods. So keto comfort foods, and those are how you make low carb pizza and low carb bread and all this stuff that people want to have. Like a 12-year-old that we're starting down this road. He was, a bigger scout, and scouts have a limit on, if you're a certain weight, you don't get to do certain activities, and he wants to do his activities at summer camp. So we're starting to help him. And what I do with a lot of children is get them down to where they can participate, and then I actually keep their level same. Don't lose weight, but don't gain weight, and let your body grow into that weight. So that's a way we do it with the young folks, and it works really well. So understand that you will not starve. There's great food. It's just different, and that's why we're doing these meetups, to try to convince you of that. And then next week, we're going to take a deeper dive into what exactly you can eat, and that we can go through all the misunderstandings about the different foods, as well as give you tips on how to make a change. So with that, we will try the Kahoots. So Kelsey, you want to?
So if before the Kahoot, I would like to, if I may, to open for some questions before we get to the Kahoot. So I know that people, I already got a question emailed to me. It says, how much protein is good for me?
Good question. So the question is, how much protein is good for you? So first off, this has to do with your kidney function, because protein is kind of rough on the kidneys. So this presupposes that you have normal kidney function. But in general, for most what I call mere mortals, it's about half your ideal body weight. So depending on what your ideal body weight is, for me, it's about, I'll just throw out 180 just as a number. Half of that would be 90 grams of protein. So that's more than adequate for me to get by on. So 6 ounces of chicken is 50 grams. So I can get about 10 ounces of meat a day, or chicken or fish or something along those lines. So to me, about half your ideal body weight is a reasonable amount. Now I have these young folks that are bodybuilders trying to get better, and then they get their whole body weight in grams of protein. For most, they're like, I have a teenager today that wants to get bigger, stronger, faster. Then they can get their body weight. But and Dr. Jason Fung has a very good book on protein. So Kelsey, the #1 book on this is The Longevity Solution. So she'll send that. But he goes through it in depth, the best protein book I've seen. And he does have an interesting sort of point, in that essentially there's a little bit of a fight between growth and longevity. So when you're young, you want to grow bigger, stronger, faster. So that's why you need the protein. As we get older, we want longevity, and understand that growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of cancer. So you don't want to get actually bigger, stronger, faster as you get older. You want to stay lean, fit, flexible. And so that's where, as you get older, the people that do well are actually on low protein diets. And so in some ways, that's why a vegetarian diet for older people in some ways is helpful, if it has a lot of fiber. And by its nature, vegetarian diets are low in protein. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, there is a person, Myrna, that is asking for person without diabetes. Fruits are good, non-diabetic. You can read this here in the chat.
Right. Yes and no. I mean, nothing's bad or good. It's all the company it keeps. So what you want to know is, as I joke, look in the mirror and see how you're doing. Are you the best version of yourself? Then go for it. Keep it up. I have, young folks who, they kayak and surf and do all this stuff. I mean, they literally could eat kind of everything they want when they're younger. And the full fruit is much better than the juice. So definitely, I would say juice is wrong, but fruit with the fiber is quite good. For an example, one glass of orange juice is 3 oranges. So when's the last time you ate 3 oranges? You can't eat 3 oranges. There's too much fiber. So if you eat the full fruit, that's actually okay. But I think what gets measured gets managed. So if you are doing well, eat the fruit. It's fine. If you're not, then understand that that's an option that you have, and that fruit is non-essential.
I got another one before Jeannie. It says, is there a formula for carbs too?
How many carbs?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing I would do is measure how many carbs you're getting, and then try to slowly come down from it. But in general, most people feel that the ideal amount for a low carb diet is about 50 grams. So if you can get under 50 grams, that's very good. It's very palatable. It's very sustainable, that kind of thing. But in terms of actually needing carbs, there's no, so you could get by on 0 and do fine. For me personally, I do 4 grams because I have 1 glass of Cabernet. So interestingly, so I don't eat any carbs, but I do drink 1 glass of Cabernet a night. It's good for your heart. And for me, that works out well. So I first start with, my opinion is, try to figure out how many you're on. I mean, I've had some people on 400 grams of carbs. And then depending on what your lifestyle is, because people say, how much can I eat? And I say, well, what are you going to do? I mean, I have people who walk the Appalachian Trail. They literally walk 10 hours a day. The studies show you walk 10 hours a day, you kind of can eat just about anything you want, because that's quite a bit, about 300 calories. That's like 3,000 calories a day of work. And so that's okay. So it all depends. When people say, what should I eat, or how much can I eat? What are you doing on the other side? How is your sleep? And then also your environment. If you're in a cold environment and you're not covered up, you lose a lot. So swimmers, that's why there was an interesting thing with Michael Phelps. He was eating 10,000 calories a day, but he also swam for 4 hours a day. So it wasn't just the exercise, it was the fact that he was in the cold that he needed it. So all of these are sort of part of it. So I would, number one, start with how much are you getting, and then tweak it a little bit, slow and steady. And then, you can hit us up or anybody else about what you can do. But I'm excited that we can, number one, measure glucose. We can measure a lot of things and then adjust. You're muted, Lydia.
We have 2 more questions, and then we'll go to the kazoo. One is from Jeannie, and you can read here. Have you heard of blood boost formula? It's supposed to endorsed by Dr. Oz to control diabetes. And the other one is from Cynthia. So if we do not have anything to eat until lunch, what time should we have our other 2 meals? So let's answer those 2 questions.
I don't really know much about that first one. Dr. Oz is trying to get ratings, so he does a lot of things like that. So I have not seen any data, so I'll defer to him. Okay. But the second one, in general, what works well is lunch and dinner. So lunch is your break fast. You will break your fast at lunch, and then you eat dinner. And the goal in general when you eat is to eat mindfully. Most of us overeat. If you eat till you're full, you will overeat. Our appetite has a lag. So it's good to, and in Okinawa, where they have a very long lifespan, they say a prayer. It's like Hiri Hashi Hu, and I'm probably mispronouncing that. But basically, before every meal, they pray to only eat 80% of the meal. So in some ways, that's what you want to do. Your normal meal, try to eat 80%. Or until you're at all full and cannot eat for a couple hours, stop. And if you do that and wait a little bit, that's why slow eating is way better than fast eating. You will eat less. That's why in like hot dog eating contests, they have to eat fast. You cannot eat that much if you ate slowly. So all of these are what you take advantage of. And so with that, I like lunch and dinner with the thought that you eat it slower, and then you'll actually eat less, but still feel just as full. And if you eat salty, sort of savory, rich foods, you eat less because it fills you up, as opposed to Lay's potato chips or other things like that that actually make you hungrier. That's why they give you free bread at a restaurant. Nobody gives you free bread without a hitch. And the hitch is you eat the bread, you'll order more, I'll get a bigger tip, which I understand. I get that. But on the other hand, for us, we just want to understand and have control of what we eat. You're muted again.
Thank you very much. And let's, Kelsey, unmute yourself and take it over.
All right, hello again. So I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna share my screen as well. Let's hope that this, okay, let's see, sharing screen. We're gonna go to Safari. Okay, can you guys see the Safari, this Kahoot? Can you see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Directions right here. I don't know if that's too loud. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, let's do that.
That's good.
Okay. All right. So then if you go ahead and go on your browser, just open another tab. You should be able to go on to this website that's right here. And then you'll type in this code. And then once I see you guys start popping in, oh, we already have one in here. I'll go ahead and get it started. And it's a quick short game. And this is checking just information from last week. We're going to have one of these every single week. Just kind of do a quick review on what we went over the last week to make sure that we're still retaining the information as we go on.
Okay,
And if you guys
give them a few minutes
questions about how to get in, just let me know.
Yeah, we'll give them a few minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Meanwhile, we do all that. We want to thank you, Dr. Jerry Hison, for your teaching, and thank you, Kelsey, for supporting us in this. We wanted to make a little bit fun this time and get some knowledge going. And thank you all for joining us again. I think this is turning out to be really good, and thank you for the ones that are coming back and really enjoying this. You can send me emails after if you need any other private question. We'll direct you to Dr. Hison, or we can do the emails with Kelsey. Kelsey had sent a survey as well, and we need that. We're going to send another survey. So please make sure to tell us how we are doing. What else do you need? And we want this to be really good and to help you. I have trouble too to write things down, but believe me, when I write things down, I know what I'm putting in my mouth. So it's a good thing to get that, Lenny, the app, if you can, or any other app that can record really your food intake. And you get used to it. You know, I've been doing this for almost 2 years, and so it is really good. Well, good. Look at this. We are getting people here.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I'll give it like 1 more minute to 7:45, unless I see anything in the chat. Is anyone struggling to get in? Let's see. Okay, I'm not seeing anything. But yeah, I'll give it 1 more minute. And then I will be sending out those emails. Also, I think we're going to post on the Facebook as well. I'll go ahead and resend as well the resources from last week, just in case for anyone who didn't get that. And then the survey I will send out again. We're just going to send that out after each week so that for the next meetings, we can do better, and we can look at doing things that you guys are looking for, things that you want to talk about. But oh, yep, we're not to 45 yet. Ooh, there's 2 people coming in.
Come on, you guys, you can do it.
Okay. And this is a pretty short Kahoot, so just a little fun at the end of the meeting.
Hey, Jerry, you should not be there.
Yeah.
You know all the answers.
All right, so I will go ahead and get it started. Okay, let's see. All right, so diabetes is the #1 cause of blindness, heart disease, foot amputation, or cancer.
Click 1.
There can be multiple right answers to this question. That's a little hint there. All right, so yeah, those were the 3 correct answers there. That was a little quick of an answer. You gotta be fast, the game's fast. All right, so far in first. There we go, there's our leaderboard right there. Okay, next question. True or false, diabetes is a fuel problem?
Fuel problem.
Let me get some music. Yes, diabetes is a fuel problem. Still in first place, holding strong. All right, what was at the bottom of the 70s food pyramid? Was it carbohydrates, veggies, fats, or desserts? Oh, and it was the carbohydrates. Sorry, I muted myself. All right, next question. Let's see. Oh, me is in first place. Not me, but whoever me is. All right. True or false? There are 6 macronutrients. True or false? This is a specific question. So if you get this right, you should be very proud. Yeah, it is true. And those were the proteins, the fats, and the carbohydrates were those 3 macronutrients. All right. Me, you're on fire. Great job, me. All right. 5 out of 6. All right. Fats are dangerous. Is that true or false? Quick answers for this one. Everyone knows this one. False. Fats are good. That's what the ketogenic diet that Dr. Izan has been working really hard to get across, that fats are not dangerous. All right. Me is still on fire, and we're still going. Okay, last question. This is the first tip that Dr. Izan gave us. Cut out all carbs now. No more snacking. Begin a strict ketogenic diet or only eat fats. Yep, it was no more snacking. All right, here's the podium. Good job, Dr. Wink, 3rd place. 2nd place. not me. All right.
Who is me?
Yeah, who is me?
Michelle.
Oh, congratulations. Great job, you won. All right, so yeah, that was just a little quick review from last week's session, and we're gonna have another one of those next week. I will be sending out the email with all the resources. At the top of the resource page, there is my email if you guys have any other questions, and I'll hand it back off to Lydia.
Okay, we still have 10 more minutes. That was fast, but it was a good questions, right? So no more snacking. I'm number one, guilty. Okay, now I said the truth. I'm guilty. Okay, fats are good. That's a review. Fats are good. And you can ask Dr. Jerry. He eats a whole butter for lunch or dinner. He eats a lot of butter, but fats are good. So we do have more time right now. If you want to unmute yourself and just talk, we have about another 10 minutes. So I'll give you for free. You guys can talk.
Actually, Alan, why don't you mention about the Carb Manager you're talking about? Tell people.
Oh,
Sure. So one of the other programs, there's plenty of them out there, but Carb Manager I found to be very simple to use, and you can record all your food on there, your water. You can scan. You can go to the supermarket. You can scan the item, using your phone and your camera, and it usually pops up in Carb Manager, and it'll just give you all the carbs and the calories and whatever you want to record. Carb Manager also has programs in it as well. If you want to set things up for you put in your weight and your height and your age, and it'll actually calculate out for you how many, if you want to be on a very strict keto diet where you have 75% fat and 25% protein and 5% carbs, it'll calculate that all for you. You can set, I have it set for low carb, and so it gives me the way when I first started, it was 30. I was doing 38 carbs a day, is what the allowance was, and honestly, it was hard to hit 38 carbs a day.
so how much are you doing now?
Well, okay, so I did put on there, and when I put in the chat, things work so much better when you actually track everything every day. And so honestly, I've been off the wagon a little bit in terms of you kind of get a feel for what you're eating on a daily basis, but honestly right now I'm not tracking it as well as I could be. And as soon as the guest who's been living with me for the last 6 months leaves next week, I'll be tracking things a lot better. So it's been a little bit more difficult having.
That's his mother.
Yeah, my mom's been with me for the last 6 months. So things will get much easier. And I'm trying to convince her to go on this program. So she to drop a few pounds, but she does pretty well. But
so for people that they are older, what is the easy way to record? Because I know that there are devices that you just can talk and it will record it for you instead of going, with the finger and trying to figure this out. Is that one of those?
I don't know if on Carb Manager you can just talk into it and enter the information.
Okay.
But I certainly know that my mom won't record it won't go into the phone and do that.
Paper and pencil works well. So
probably the best way to do it.
Also, we can put that on for next week.
Yeah.
And basically, it's kind of like squares, and each day you have so many squares for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, exercise, and they just write it down and bring it in, and then I quickly figure it out in the office or something like that. So if you're interested and you don't really want to get into the apps and all that stuff, simply just write it down, guesstimate about what quantity, and most of your healthcare providers will figure that out for you. It's very, very quick and pretty pretty helpful to get that kind of feedback. When you look at people who do well, they try something and then they get feedback.
I will say the other thing that's really, and I'm sure it's like this in a lot of the other apps too, like in Carb Manager, if you, let's say you have, it says a cup is so many, carbs or whatever, you can easily change it to, you can easily put in half cup, and obviously it just will calculate, what the amount is. So, or if you have more than that. So it's really nice. If you have, more than one portion of something, it'll just recalculate things for you. And it has a nice circular graph in there too, as to how you're progressing during the day in terms of your protein, fats, and carbs.
Mm-hmm. And I do not know if we are going to touch maybe this next week, but there is the hand kind of measurements. I don't know, Jerry, we are going to talk about that. So you know how much steak you can have by your hands, your finger, and all that. That's kind of, instead of going and weighing things, you can actually look in your hands and do that. I don't know if we're going to get into that next week. But it's another way to see, how much you are eating if you do not want to weight your food.
Well, if you tell us to do it, Letty, we'll just do it. So, Kelsey.
Kelsey, yeah, let's do that, because that's very, very easy, and you get the visual or how much steak you can have, and so let's think about that. Maybe we can do some visuals. We did it for one time at one of our diabetes camp. It's hard with children, I admit, but with adults, we are more conscious of what we are trying to do, Anyhow, we have Nelson. I'm going to call you, Nelson, that you are here. Put yourself on unmute. And I would like to know, let's do a feedback. This is your second session. Are you getting something out? Are you learning? How is going for you?
I'm in the process of educating myself, because I discovered a new gadget called Dexcom G6 that counts my sugar levels every 5 minutes. And it tells me as I go eating immediately whether my sugar is up, down. In the past, see, right now it's 171, but it's going up to 600. It went down to 40 and up. So this is really, really good for me to know that diet has that much influence.
Please put your, let's see, put your phones on mute, Roque. I believe you are on not mute. Go ahead. I'm sorry for that, Nelson.
I tried the keto diet, but if you cheat a little bit without really knowing, I went into the keto diet, but rather I gain weight rather than lose weight. So I'm doing something wrong. I need to read more. I need to count things, which is kind of, what is helping me rather is the fasting now. In the mornings, I don't have anything. And that's giving more energy, giving more clarity. And I'm very hopeful, and I really need help with this. So even though right now it's 11 o'clock here where I am, I'm about to fall asleep. This is it's a great help. Thank you, Doctor, and Lydia and Kelsey and everybody else. I appreciate your support. I'm glad that you're sharing all this information.
Thank you for your support.
So yeah, there are devices, and normally they're used for type 1, but, and Jerry, you can elaborate like that. They are more and more now giving it to type 2s, but you have to, I think, qualify, depends on the insurance and all that, to measure your blood sugar and do your insulin by itself. So that's what Nelson has, and he has a constant number that is giving what, when he's eating, what is his count, what is his glucose count.
Right. And there's a couple. There's a Dexcom 6 like you have, and then there's the Abbott Fiebre that you might see commercials for. So you're right. It does depend on the insurance, but I really do think the more you measure, the better you manage. And Nelson, one of the other things to look at is maybe getting a health coach that can follow you on an app. So we'll be talking about. I mean, that's been something. You're right. Like it's very frustrating, and so what we like to do is give you, frankly, coaching to help get you over these rough spots till you figure out what works for you.
Yep. And it is 8 o'clock. Anybody else does have any burning desire? Okay, Kelsey, you are on mute. Okay, Kelsey.
Okay, just real quick, for the people that wanted like the handwritten thing and don't want to use the apps, at the end of the resources, I will attach a little like, it's basically like a food diary page that I put together for the book that Dr. Isa and I are working on, but I'll attach that on the end. So if you want to print out and use that for now, that will be on the end of the resources page.
Okay. All right. Well, anybody else have any question? We will see, otherwise we will see you next week. But if you have any questions, we can spend a little time, 1 or 2 minutes. Yes, Jerry, you have a question. Jerry, you are on mute.
Just waiting.
Okay, just
Thank
waiting.
you all for attending, and give
Okay.
us feedback. We'll do anything you want us to do.
Yes, please fill out the survey when I send it out. That would be great.
Okay, thank you guys. Have a good night, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.